I'm looking at the assignments, and we had a little bit of a discussion at the beginning. And Gina, are you prepared to do the first teach back of the slide, I am the message?
I am. That is the slide that I prepared, slide 7.
All right, so this is a really cool slide. It's in here a couple times. It's in again at the transition. Talk to us about it.
Okay, so this is actually my favorite slide. I wish we could all leave with t-shirts that say I am the message. Because when we begin to develop our practice around the notion that I am the message, we are choosing to demonstrate intentionally around our words, our demeanor, our tone, and our nonverbal signals. We are taking responsibility to tend to those nuances and to ensure that all are in alignment in building the message that will allow us and enable us to connect to each other and to the people we love and to the people we meet on a deeper level. As we develop new practices and habits, it is important to give ourselves the same patience and understanding and forgiveness during our learning process that we would bestow upon our most cherished friends or loved ones. We are developing new communication practices, which take time and effort and commitment and practice that, again, must be met in a graciously accepting manner. While I continue to develop my practice of demonstrating my belief and understanding that I am the message, I find myself feeling guilty for the time and opportunities that I have lost, specifically those with those relationships that I cherish and maybe have a limited time frame of influence with. For example, my kids are leaving my house at 18, or maybe my parents. So I tend to feel guilty and sad that of the opportunity lost there. But when these thoughts come to mind, I work to remind myself of 2 thoughts that help me show the self-compassion that I need as I'm developing a new practice. And so as I progress, I remind myself of this, and it's a quote from Maya Angelou, that and she reminds us to do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, you do better. Another thought comes from mindfulness, and it's that every breath is a new beginning and a new chance. In relationship to intentional communication, it's every breath is a new chance to be the message, to take what we now know and work to do better, moment by moment, breath by breath. Every breath is a new opportunity to practice and to build our skill set, to be able to demonstrate the connection-oriented practices that we've learned over the past 3 days together. So that's what I have.
And that's terrific. Thank you. So tell me, now that you've gone through that, what did you like?
Well, this is truthful. This is pretty much a journal entry for me as I contemplated on it, like where, so I like that it was my actual thoughts. I like that I shared how I developed my personal practice. I really tried to incorporate that I'm still on my journey and not be in facilitator mode and say your, as if I've reached the destination. I really wanted to communicate that it's a continual process. That you will go back to, and that you have to be gracious with yourself and kind with yourself as you're developing these habits. And I know that when I went through the training, it really did shine some light on some relationships that maybe I have been in helpful mode or that sunny side of control and didn't really get the opposite side, which can be when your intention doesn't match what you're actually doing. It's kind of a shock to the system. So I just wanted to give them permission to continue the work, even though it can be you can be pretty. It can really open some so your eyes to some situations where maybe you could have handled differently, and maybe
Hmm.
you were an impediment to it. So I wanted to give themselves permission to be kind to themselves
Sure.
and to continue the work.
You did that. Yes,
Good.
I think you, yeah. And again, I'm only getting part of your message because I'm not seeing your nonverbals, but from how you expressed yourself, you came clear on that. Now that you've heard it and you heard yourself speak it, is there anything you would like to do differently next time?
I think I'm a fast talker, especially when it's like a small presentation moment, and so I would slow down,
Hmm.
put a little bit more emphasis and intention on some of the more impactful phrasing that I used.
Hmm.
If I was seeing my the people I was facilitating to, I would be able to gauge, and then depending on timing, I might even go into a personal story that would show them maybe where I've
Sure.
learned my lesson for being self-compassionate in this practice, in this work as we build capacity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, I can see that. Um, what I liked about the way you presented this, and again, we're just kind of doing the what here, and we're going to do the how down in St. Louis, which are a lot of the things that you had identified, but you emphasize the responsibility that we have as people to take responsibility for our own behavior, and that came clear. And then you quickly followed that up with extending yourself some grace, and that I think is very warm, because we do recognize at some points that it's just a oh no, and you helped us have some grace and kind of pick us up. And you use the frame new practices. You gave a really nice self-disclosure of your journey of doing this. And I think that helps connect with the group. By the third day, you will be connected. And this will, from what I'm seeing, the way you hold yourself and the way you speak, you will be connected with the group on that third day. And this will become a very warm and encouraging and just just with real integrity, you will come across. I can see that happening. So thank you. And
Thank you.
I think you have put a lot of thought into this slide, and you're going to use these ideas elsewhere, not just on this slide. They're going to squirt out,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I'm anxious to see that happen. Sean, I believe you have the next slide. It's called slide number 8. Sean, are you on the call with us here?
I sure am. All
Are
right.
you prepared to tell us what this funny arrow is all about?
I certainly hope so. We'll see. I'll let
Okay.
you be the judge of whether I'm actually able and prepared to do this. But all right. So I'm sure you've all heard of the phrase "practice makes perfect." There's a lot of truth to this. Who here has ever tried to make a habit or behavior change, like quitting smoking, cooking more home meals, or that typical New Year's resolution of committing to go to the gym more? I see some nods. All right, great. Um, about 4 months ago, I decided to give up soda. Anyone who knows me, they know that I love Diet Coke. I would always have one usually in my hand at any meeting. Um, I kept thinking to myself, if I just make it, a couple of weeks, and then things will be smooth sailing. I had always heard that it takes, 2 to 3 weeks for something to become a habit. And I was incredibly wrong. Still a month in, I was craving Diet Coke when I went to the movies or sat down for a specific meal like a hamburger or pizza. I always wanted it. And the research has actually shown that it takes an average of 66 days for something to become an automatic behavior. Some less and some more, but an average of 66 days. That's about 9.5 weeks. It's a long time. Now, in this course, we're asking you all to make a behavior change. This is something that will take some time of you, some a little less, some a little more, but it's all a process. And it's going to take time and effort in order to commit to it. Now, what you're seeing here up on the screen is what we call the growth curve. It's the process that people go through when they're developing a new skill or a habit. Many of you probably started this course at the unconsciously unskilled part. This is where you're not even aware of what skills you don't have as it relates to effective communication. You don't know what you don't know. Then, as we're going through, everyone kind of got to the same point of being consciously unskilled. You start to become more aware of what skills are needed for effective communication, and realize what skills you don't possess in order to be effective at that. Then, throughout the course, you start to learn more skills. You start to get more practice and more experience, and hopefully, if we've done our job, you are all at the consciously skilled portion of this. This means that you are aware of what goes into effective communication, and you have the skills needed in order to be successful at that. And this begins the part where you are moving into the unconsciously skilled. This is your next journey. This is where you are going to be putting things into practice. This consciously skilled is great, but it feels a little awkward at times. You have to constantly be aware of your choices, of your behavioral tendencies, and flex or adjust in order to be more effective at that communication. And it's going to feel a little bit weird. But as things go, in the average of 66 days throughout this, you're going to eventually become unconsciously skilled, which means that it's more of like a natural state for you. You're not going to have to think about it. You're going to be able to just deftly maneuver through conversations. You're going to be crafting a message. You're going to be reflectively listening, bending the knee left and right. And you're going to be having great success in this. And it's not going to take as much emotional or mental energy for you. And so over the next few months, you're going to be developing and practicing this. On the next few slides, we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do to set yourself up for success moving forward, and some of the supports that our community listens has developed and designed for you to help you along your way and along your journey. The end.
Thank you. Thank you. You clearly prepared for this.
Yeah.
What did you like about what you just completed?
All right. I like that I had a personal story. I like that I kind of gave references to things that people can clearly relate to and put themselves in, because, who hasn't tried to make some sort of habit change or behavior change? I think I did a pretty good job of articulating that pathway and that process. For me, where I think I struggle is, I was talking to Lindsay a little bit about this today. I am someone who does a lot of improv. Like, I am really good on the fly. I'm good at hosting things and kind of feeding off of energy of people and tailoring my message based upon what's landing, what's not, where the nods are, where the smiles are. And so for me, there's this balance between being over prepared and kind of knowing the material and being able to go off the cuff. And I think for this, because it's still relatively new, and because of the format with not being able to see people and hear people, I went on the more prepared, which I think takes a little bit more effort for me to humanize it and to personalize it and not make it seem like I'm just reading from a script. So I think that's part of where that was. And then, of course, I don't know if y'all noticed, a couple of times I paused, I got lost. Where was I? When it's in my head, it's always a pathway that I can see. But when it's on paper and I am looking up at you, Larry, to kind of see your face, and then I go back down, I'm like, wait, where was I? So I think that with more practice and with more comfort with the material, I'll be at a better place with it where it will feel more natural. I'm not sure how it came across, but for me, it felt a little not as natural as I tend to be with communication. So.
Yes. And I'll give you the opportunity. You've kind of blended into the next question, but so I'll give you the opportunity if you want to flesh that out. You gave us a little insight of what you'd like to change. Is there anything else that comes to mind?
Possibly getting more interaction with the group. There's probably a couple of spots where I could actually engage them and ask them different questions around the consciously skilled, or different pieces, because I think it's a really important slide. I think it really helps people understand and gives people some acceptance about their own personal struggles throughout this journey, where they were realizing maybe they didn't have the skills, or they thought they were a better communicator than they were. I know I definitely did that with, when we learned how to actually reflectively listen. I was like, wait, but no, asking clarifying questions is always great. So there's points where you start to pick apart some of your own norms and change those a little bit. So I think it could be a good way for people to have some resolution with some of that if I ask some questions and engage a little bit more along the way.
Thank you. Certainly. Yep. Marcia, if you are on the call, I'm going to give you the opportunity when I'm finished with my comments to chime in if you like. Wow, I'm anxious to see you actually facilitate in front of people. You said that your skill was improv, and I can see that, and you're going to use that really, really well. I can see, I get it. This preparation for this call, and you can't see anybody, is like petting a cat backwards for you. It's just not your flow. I really appreciate you sharing the story of the soda. Great illustration. You unpacked the process. You helped us understand the journey. You clearly, without question, understand what this slide is all about, and you connected it with what's coming up next. This slide is to help people do a little reflection, pause a little bit, maybe put some personal goals in their mind, and you treated it as such and did a great job with its intent. So thank you for that. Marcia, if you're on the call, do you have anything else you would like to add for Sean?
I would just say, Sean, you did such a nice job, and I love your voice. As a person who's great off the cuff, I think facilitation may be a real strength for you as well. We talk about that there are different roles you're going to play. You're going to teach, you're going to model, you're going to facilitate. That's in the moment when you really have to listen and respond to what's happening around you. So I just say that as you practice, to know that there are going to be elements for all of us that are strengths and elements that are a little more challenging. Clearly you prepared, and thank you for looking to be a little more scripted rather than being off the cuff. But for everybody, be the authentic you always. I think one of the things people are challenged with sometimes who do a lot of presenting is that this isn't a sales pitch. It's not for entertainment purposes, although elements of those I know kind of bleed in. But yeah, I think you're all in just the right place. And Sean, really good job. And I feel like you stretched yourself, even with this little slide that, as Larry says, is more of a positional think about what you're going to do than a heavy slide. I think you stretched yourself to try to really be there and not try to teach more. So thanks for your hard work.
Thank you, Marcia. Lethea, I believe you were assigned to help us understand better this crossroads slide. Am I correct on that?
You are correct.
Could you tell us about the crossroads and what you would say in the transition module on this?
Okay, I sure will. Thank you so much, Sean. That's a perfect lead into our next slide, significant behavioral change. Remember this slide from our first day, the figure at the crossroads contemplating whether to continue on the same path or embark on a new journey? This is where we are today. This is where you are today, that crossroads. Whether to continue communicating the same, listening the same, and presenting the same message, or whether to embark on a new journey, a journey of continuous learning that asks you to make significant changes in your behavior, in your relationships, and in the way you lead. Each significant change is a choice, a personal choice that must be made every day. I remember when I first took this course. I mean, to be honest, I came into the course thinking I was an awesome communicator and even better listener. I mean, I had been told so by my peers and coworkers. So honestly, I took the class to add another tool to my toolbox. Little did I know, I had no idea how the choice I made to take this class would impact my life and furthermore change the most important relationship in my life, that with my 10-year-old daughter. I'm an older mommy, so I had my daughter a little bit later in life. And when she first got here, I knew she would be the love of my life. She's brilliant, she's smart, daring, courageous. I mean, she's literally everything that I could want in a daughter. And I have tried my best to show her that in every way possible. I tell her constantly how proud I am of her. I remember before I took the class, I heard my daughter one evening in her room, and she was very upset. And she was saying, I can't do anything right. I always make mistakes. I'm a failure. I immediately became upset and confronted her because I couldn't imagine why she felt this way. I mean, I had never said those things to her. Instead of listening, I just discounted it as she was pouting or she was complaining, and I went on. I remember when I took this course, it hit me, and it hit me hard. Actually, I was quite sad about it, but it was something I needed to hear. I realized that I was the issue. See, I'm a strong D, DI, but a very strong D. So it's my tendency to control, to fix, to direct. My nonverbal communication sometimes are glares, or you can see the impatience because I'm waiting for you to get to the point. Sometimes I have a lack of reflecting listening skills because, once again, I want you to get to the point. Oftentimes, to my daughter, I exhibited the bended, I was not the bended knee, I was the bat, the interrogator. She would bring me a problem, I'm going to fix it. Don't worry about it. She would take too long to tell me something. I'm going to hurry her along, get to the point. When she's telling me about her day and what happened at lunch and what happened with this little girl, I'm thinking about what grade did you get on your assignment? What is the next assignment coming to do? Although I wanted to be the best mom, my intention was for her not to struggle, not to worry. But I realized after taking this course that I was robbing her of her ability to solve her own problems, robbing her of her ability to come to the solution on herself. I was not listening. And that had a lot to do with why she felt like she could not do things on her own or do it right. It was on the third day of the course when I looked at this particular slide that I realized I needed to make a choice to make some significant changes in my behaviors to improve this relationship. I wanted to make sure the message that I was showing aligned with how I felt inside. It didn't matter that I told her she was beautiful or I was telling her that she was smart. It was all the other parts of my message that was telling her something different. I made that choice that day, and I continue to make that choice every single day on a path of continuous learning. Now, I will tell you that choice is not difficult. That choice is not easy. It's oftentimes very difficult for me because it's easier for me to go back into the D mode and want to solve the problem. But it's important for me, it's important for her to make that choice every single day. I ask that you all kind of look at where you are in your own life. It may not be with a child, it can be with a spouse, a relative, a parent, a coworker. Is there a relationship in your own personal life that you want to deepen? Is it a way that you want to show up that you know for yourself you're not showing? I want you to think about your nonverbal communication. Think about whether or not you show up when you're supposed to. Think about whether or not when someone's speaking, are you truly listening or are you waiting for your turn to speak? This is your choice because only you can make those significant behavioral changes. And once again, you are at this crossroad. That's it. I'm done.
Thank you. Terrific. Love it. So tell us, now that you've heard it come out of your mouth and you've heard it speak, what did you like about what you just did?
Um, it was really from the heart. And I felt it was important to share that because I was one of those people that when I came into the class, I was really thinking I pretty much had communication and listening figured out. And the class was truly life-changing for me because that is the most important relationship to me. And so I like that I incorporated it in that because I think a lot of people, when they come into it, they don't really understand how life-changing it is. So I like that I was able to kind of convey that.
I like the same things you liked. That was great. Is there anything you'd want to do differently?
I was really nervous because I'm a person, I do kind of go off of cues, how people are looking, it kind of guides me in regards to if I need to go deeper or if I'm going too deep. And I really didn't know how to
Mhm.
incorporate the class. I would have liked to maybe have gotten some input from somebody, their
Mhm.
perspective, of that slide. So I would have liked to have probably brought somebody else in on that.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me offer this feedback, and again, I'm going to allow Marcia to share as well. I really like the way you shaped the crossroads and talked about the new journey. That connects with really what we want to do in the course. Your connection to your daughter, beautiful story. I'm just going to suspect something, and that is that you probably will have difficulty waiting until the third day to share that story, which is just fine. You may flesh that story out deeper on this third day, but it's probably going to come out sooner, which is terrific. It might even come out on the first day of the crossroads. It's don't know. You keyed into the class points as you summarized, and that might be where you really tie things together with the story, just like you did. You identified the things that we talked about for the last 3 days and what it meant to you personally and your daughter. Uh, terrific, terrific self-disclosure there and just sharing the class. And then you turned it and you challenged other people, which is really what this slide does, is a challenge to those participants. We're moving now as facilitators that it's not about our story, it's not about us. Now it's about you, and you did that. You challenged that to the class and made them think. You had a series of think about, and I think that was very powerful. I enjoy listening to you. You got a very nice speaking voice. You're going to be very pleasant in class. You're going to engage people. Looking forward to meeting you. So thank you for your preparation and what you shared with us here.
Thank
Marcia,
you.
do you have any comments?
Well, you guys covered it pretty thoroughly. I just say beautiful job. Folks have said, and I agree. I forget we're in a
Okay.
teach back. I think that you're just, I'm in class. I'm back to class. Um,
Cool.
Again, fabulous job. Love this story. And this is a key anchor of the whole class, or a thread that runs through. And that's the idea of choice. This class is focused on asking people, offering, inviting folks to change. And this slide is a reminder. It's not about having a great time. It's about changing the way we treat others, the way we behave in our lives. And that's choice. So I love that you really hit that big. So thank you. Just great job. And I know Sarah's on and will hopefully help us as we keep moving forward. Thanks. Thanks, Lethea.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got a picture of a mountain range and the title People's Expectations. Nicholas, are you prepared to kind of flesh this out for us? What would you tell participants when this slide pops up?
All right, good morning, everybody. So I teach a slide basically as we transition back into our day-to-day life, and you start to utilize components that we've been taught. People may have expectations for you. The likeliness of these expectations, they're not right nor wrong. They're not realistic or unrealistic. We just need to acknowledge that they're there. Sometimes this can be very difficult, no matter how hard we try, because at the end of the day, we're still human. We should try to remember that the expectations we have for others are often higher than what we have for ourselves, and that when we start to exude techniques of active listening and start displaying significant behavioral change, others may start to see us as we fill these roles differently, and i.e., they may confide in you, they may trust you, they may ask you actually what happened in these last 3 days as they've displayed your behavioral change. And going forward, we're going to give you those little tools in the next couple slides here. So that's how I teach that one.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. You have a relaxed style. I like that. So now that you've heard yourself speak it, what did you like about how you presented this?
Really, I like the candidness of it. It really presents itself when you read the slide. But that's really about what I like about it.
Okay. Okay. Anything you'd do different?
Yeah, I would actually facilitate a conversation about the slide instead of actually teaching it as a reading point. I think you can get a buy-in when you ask others what they may expect coming out of the class from other people. You know, like what are some of the challenges you may think you're gonna encounter when you're going forward with information? What message are you gonna convey at the end of the day? You know, so
Great.
that's what.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel your pain in the idea that you would have a real conversation with people, and what I really appreciate about that, especially with you right here, is that is such an integral part of the facilitation that it just feels like maybe you're operating with one arm when you don't have the people there. It's really hard. It's really hard to facilitate if you don't have anyone to facilitate with. I observed some things. You gave us a picture of what people are going to see. I think you helped be very practical and pragmatic about what it might be like when we get out there, and you just shared that. And that's an important thing to help the participants think about, because we're going to make some plans here in a few minutes, which you segued into quite nicely of how we're going to prepare for that. And so this slide in itself, there may not be a lot of time spent on it, but it is a really good slide to help people shift their thinking to what they're about to do. And you did that very well. Appreciate your self-disclosure, appreciate your style. Thank you for your preparation. I think you're going to do great. Marcia, do you have any additional comments for Nicholas?
No, I like candid and succinct.
Okay.
You mentioned you'd probably facilitate. This whole section is it's less of a facilitation until you get to the continuous learning guide. And it's much more of a think about what people are going to expect. Here's a script we've created for you. It moves pretty quickly. Sarah, any thoughts? I know our wonderful Sarah Weisbarth is on as well.
I finally arrived. No, I would agree. The succinct to the point. We start to move here in a moment to the walk and talk with transition. How these teachbacks have gone is really the tone of transition, to inspire and kind of be the voice of reality and start to equip our participants to what they're going to move into. And Nicholas, your conversational tone and just kind of realness really fits that